I'm going to be talking about the second lesson in Chapter 10, um, which has to do with the volume of a triangular prism. So lesson 1 was the volume of a rectangular prism. So we're going from rectangle to a triangle. And we know that when we do that, like when we do surface area of a rectangle, it's base times height. And then when we go to a triangle, it is the base times the height. Oops, should be small b. Base times the height, base times height divided by 2. Base times height. Okay? So, for surface area, just the area of this, it's the base times the height, which is a rectangle. For the triangle, it's the base times the height, and then it's divided by 2. So, if you want to translate that to volume, it's going to be real similar. You're going to take the formula that you did for the volume of a rectangle. When you do the triangle one, you're just going to divide it by 2. It's just half as much as this one. And that's all you got to do. Okay? So, let's review the volume of a rectangular prism. It's V equals length times width times height. Now the length and the width of a rectangle is the same as the area of the base. So it's kind of like base and height, or length and width. Once you times those two together, you get the area of the base, the surface area of the base. Then you times it by the height. Okay. So for a volume of a triangular prism, the volume is going to equal your length times width times height, and because it's a triangle, divided by 2. There's your formula. Or another way to say it would be that volume equals the area of the base times your height divided by 2. Okay, let's practice. I'm going to show you this one right here. I have a triangular prism. Okay, it's a 3D figure. That means it's a prism, but it's triangular. Okay, so this is how I always do it, and some people don't do it exactly this way, but I really encourage you to do it. I'll do it 2 different ways. One way is that I always put my formula down. Volume equals length times width times height, and because it's triangular, divided by 2. So what I do, I don't know the volume, so the V stays there. Do I know the length? The length. And this kind of thing is the area of the base. So I have a 7 here, and then 8 here. 7 times 8, so that's my triangle. That's the area of the triangle. And then this height is 10. Okay? So once I have my formula, I just remove all the parts that I know, all the variables with the actual numbers. I plug them in. Okay? The other way to do it would be like volume equals length times width times height divided by 2. And then I just copy it. Volume, length is 7, times width is 8, times height is 10, divided by 2. So instead of erasing it, I put it down here. Either way, I'm going to get the same thing that I have to solve for V. So I come over here. Now I can just do this top part. 7 times 8, volume equals, I know that's 56 times 10 divided by 2. Now I do another thing. 56 times 10, I know it's 560 divided by 2. And then I know that 560 divided by 2, volume equals 280. Okay? So I get my volume equals 280, but I'm not quite done. 280, ooh, that's a bad 8. 280, and it's yards. And because it's how many cubes can go in it, it's cubic yards. So I'm cubing it, not squaring it. Squaring is the area, but cubing it. 280 yards cubed. Okay? I just took my length and my width, which is basically, I wanted the surface area of this triangle. Once I had the surface area of this triangle, which is the 8 times 7 divided by 2, but I kept that here, times the height of it. Okay? And this would be your base, because if you stand it up like this. Okay. Now, you can also figure this there we go. You can figure out if you're missing a number. Okay, so on this one, I have my volume. This one I have, here's my triangular prism. This looks like my length of it, my width of it. I don't know what my height is, but I want to find the area of this one. Once I find the area of this triangle, I times it by h. So I look at my formula. Volume equals, let's see, length times width times height divided by 2. Okay, I actually know the volume on this one. So I'm going to erase my b and put 12. My volume's 12. Now my length is, let's see, length of this one is 1. My width is 0.3. And my height, this part right here, I don't know what that is. So it's h. So I have my formula here. 12 equals 1 times 0.3 times h divided by 2. I need to figure out what my height is. I want to know what this h is. So I'm solving for h. This is the algebra. You have your equation. You just have to solve for the variable. So I start getting rid of things. Okay, I have all this divided by 2. So I do the opposite to get rid of this. So I'm going to times each side by 2. 12 times 2 equals 24 equals, now this whole thing times 2 is going to cancel those out. So it's 1 times 0.3 times h. Okay? So now I go 24 equals, I'm going to times these together. 1 times 0.3. Anything times 0.3 is itself. So it's 0.3 times h. Okay. Now, I want to get rid of this 0.3 so it can leave my h all by itself. What's happening to the h right now? It's being multiplied by 0.3. If it's being multiplied by 0.3, the way I get rid of it is I do the opposite. Divide it by 0.3. Divide by 0.3. Okay? Now these two things equal 1, so it's just h equals 24 divided by 0.3. And you can use your calculator on this, it's much easier. 24 divided by 0.3 is going to get me 80. Okay? You think, well, I'm dividing it by 0.3. I'm dividing it. I'm going to get smaller than 24, but you're dividing it by a decimal. Okay? So do it on your calculator and see what you get. Then plug it in and check it. So if I think my height is 80, so I'm going to say this equals 80. Then I put it into my formula. Forgetting about the volume, now that I think I have my height, my length, and my width. So volume equals length times width times height divided by 2. I'm going to plug it in. And if I solve this and I get this, I know that 80 is the correct answer. Okay, so volume equals 1 times 0.3 times 80 divided by 2. Let's see what I get. Okay, volume equals 1 times 0.3 is 0.3 times 80 divided by 2. Okay, now I'm going to do my 0.3 times, let's see, 0.3 times 80 equals 24. So volume equals 24 divided by 2. And if I do 24 divided by 2, that's going to get me 12. Is that the same as this? It is 12 centimeters cubed. So the height is 80 centimeters. And the way I figured it out, I put it into my formula, solved for what was missing, did every step, slowly got rid of parts on this side until I was left with just my h. And then I looked over here and it was 80. So my height was 80. Then this felt wrong to me because I thought, like, if I'm dividing it by a number, it should be getting smaller, right? But dividing it by a decimal is different. It's the same as multiplying it by a fraction. But I did it on my calculator. I did the correct function. It was divided by, and I got 80. And because I wanted to, it didn't make sense at first, I wanted to make sure I plugged it in. I put it up here as my height, and then I came over here, put them all into the formula, and then I solved, and I got this volume of 12, which is the volume it gave me to begin with. Okay? So I double checked. Alrighty, so the key here. This is lesson 10.1, and this is lesson 10.2. Volume of a rectangular prism, the formula. Volume equals length times width times height. Volume of a triangular prism, the same as a rectangular prism except for it's divided by 2 because it's triangular. Length times width times height divided by 2. Okay? Go ahead and do some practice on this, and hopefully you'll be able to master getting the volume of a rectangular prism and the volume of a triangular prism.